Hey, what's up? It's BQ and TW here representing the Impact Lounge and the Cool Factor podcast. Thanks for listening, swinging by as always. Let me throw it out there first. If it's your first time here and you're looking for the number one podcast for the Impact Wrestling fan, number one channel, number one platform, whatever it is, the Impact Lounge is the place to be. So consider becoming a valued subscriber and hope you guys enjoy what we have to talk about with Impact Wrestling for this week. With the Cool Factor podcast, we're going to hit on the good and bad of the episode. We're not going to get too in depth into it. We're not going to go segment by segment. We're going to talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. Get into a couple listener questions at the end, and hope you guys dig it. Hope you feel it. So let's throw this out there. First and foremost, I really like this episode, really from top to bottom. I found myself just really enjoying some of the small details. I'm a small detail guy, and there was a lot that I thought they hit on, and I enjoyed it for that reason. I enjoyed the matches. I did enjoy it. The one thing I think I'll just get it out the way now because there's always going to be a commentary rant, was for me, dude, Josh talking about Kenny Omega every single match multiple times is absolute overkill. It's a possibility that there's something in the working agreement where they have to name drop AEW so many times. And Impact is in a position here that I'm sure they're going to agree with whatever the
right.
You feel me on that? But man, I mean, it's multiple times per match when it has nothing to do with the match. It'll just be like, Madison will say what a great wrestling match. And Josh, speaking of wrestling, the All Elite Wrestling Champion Kenny Omega is in his bus. I mean, and there was times, dude, where he said it so randomly that Madison didn't even have it got to like, okay, we've talked about this so many times. I don't have a rebuttal for you, and we would just have like awkward silence for a little bit. Like, oh, you want to get back to calling the match or
right. Should I, what do you want me to say? He's here. Yeah. Okay, great.
we get it. He name dropped Kenny Omega 7 times during the main event.
Wow. You counted.
I did count because it got to the point where I was like, dude, I'm going to count this time. I would say it was probably twice per match up to that. And it was every match. Even the knockouts match. Like the knockouts have nothing to do with the AEW World Champion.
Right.
And it's nonstop, dude. And it's not just me pointing out a small detail because I've seen people on social media say, okay, like we get it. Like it's there's other people feel that it's overkill. But other than that, I thought the commentary was okay for the show. It was just it's just the Kenny, like less is more sometimes. We get it.
Yeah.
We get that he's there and you got to promote that, but less is more, just a little much.
I mean that, but you know what though? We talked before about Josh Matthews and his commentary style and how it's so much what he learned in WWE, right? And think about the way that WWE markets. Subtlety is not in the book. Correct. Of WWE marketing, right? Like they beat you over the head with the ultimate thrill ride or the $9.99, right? You know what I mean? You can just start rattling off WWE slogans because they've just beaten you over the head with the boyhood dream, right? All of them. So that's what he learned. You know what I mean? He came under the WWE system, and that's how you promote in the world of WWE. So
the last WrestleMania I've seen, I haven't seen the last several, but the last one I ordered it. I'd already stopped watching WWE at this point, but it was one of those like, all right, I'm going to order WrestleMania. And it was the one where they transitioned the divas to superstars.
Okay.
And I remember it was like maybe Charlotte Flair versus Asuka, maybe. I think that was the match. It was
Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This was the WrestleMania in Jerry World in Texas.
Okay. Dude, Michael Cole during that match beat it. He was just beating a dead horse. These superstars of the WWE. I mean, it was like, it was just every opportunity to name drop that he just boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh my God, I get it. But you're right. Subtlety is not a thing from the school where he comes from. I will say I noticed this episode he was trying to call some of the moves that he normally wouldn't do. Before it's Blue Thunder Bomb, step up in Saguri, but this time I felt like he was making an attempt to call the moves a little bit. So Josh ran out of the way. We got that out of the way early this time. Let's talk about the viewership. So the viewership dropped on Twitch. I think it peaked around 55,000 last week. This time it peaked around 15,000. So it was about a 40,000 drop. And then with that information, when I was doing my B-side podcast, I said I was expecting about 186,000 viewers for this episode. It was actually less. It was 177. So another big drop again. It seems like some people hung around. Majority of the people didn't. I think what killed it a little bit was that when everyone tuned in for the Kenny Omega announcement, there wasn't an announcement, and there was people who thought it was a waste of time, and there was some who just enjoyed the segment. Like, I enjoyed the segment, but I'm gonna watch Impact regardless. But I think some people are like, okay, I watched this 2-hour episode, and even when they asked Kenny, Kenny had he had said, so you're asking, what am I doing here at Impact Wrestling? And then he just continued to talk in a circle. And he didn't answer his own question, so it was quite a bit of a drop. So what do you got on the drop in Twitch? I don't know if they played on YouTube again. I don't think they did, but obviously Twitch and Access TV dropped quite a bit. And before you get to what you're going to say, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a spike in DVR viewership, because I've said this before. I don't even watch Impact Live because I don't have that must-see watch. It doesn't have the must-see watchability for me. I understand. I run this channel and I review this show every week, but it just doesn't. I have another show I watch on Tuesdays. And that's it just kind of takes precedence. So that doesn't mean that.
What you mean? You and your girlfriend don't want to sit down and watch Alicia Edwards?
She doesn't like Alicia, so still waiting on my Alicia merchandise to get here. But so I'm saying, for me, it doesn't have that.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to derail. But wait a minute. When I watched the Alicia and Tenille match this week, I was thinking about you, because I was like, yo, dog. I was like, yo, Brian, you can't be you can't still be holding out hope that this Alicia thing is gonna turn into something. You can't. No, I mean, she like tried to roll into the ring and like stumbled under the ropes. And like, it was just little stuff where, and here's the thing, she's actually an experienced wrestler, right? She's been wrestling for a long time. I mean, listen, Titus O'Neil, for those of you who watch WWE, he's been wrestling for a long time too. And sometimes it just ain't happening. Okay. Like, it just ain't, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not saying that she doesn't belong on a show, but the idea that, that she is destined for some bigger role.
I'm never saying her a bigger role. I'm just saying her own lane. Like that's all I'm saying. But
not even. She's a passenger.
Okay. All right. So, what you. I'm gonna pretend you didn't say any of that. We're gonna get into the viewership. Your thoughts. My point was, though, that doesn't mean that there weren't extra eyeballs who record it or like, okay, I'm gonna watch it later, because it's. It takes a lot for something to be considered. Impact loves to use that word must see, but it takes a lot for something to be considered must see television. And
So let me ask a question. Do you know what the Impact viewership was before the week before Kenny Omega was on the show?
166, I believe.
Okay, and that's on Access. And do you know what was it the week he was on Access? The week that Kenny Omega was on, what was it?
240 something.
240. Okay, and what was it this week?
Shit. It was 177.
Okay, so I think that people were just looking at this in the wrong way. And listen, I hate to seem like I'm being like a Sam Roberts, like somebody who's going to try to shine a turd, right? Like try to twist everything into like a positive light. But I don't. So I saw that these articles were coming out that Impact viewership drops. Right. And when I saw that, I was like, yo, I didn't even need to click it and see the numbers. Because I already knew what you said. I already knew. And what I already knew was that there was going to be a spike, a huge spike. The Kenny Omega appearing on Impact Wrestling was the talk of the wrestling world. Of course, there was going to be a spike in viewership on Twitch, on Access TV, everywhere. Of course, there was going to be a spike. And did you just see this field goal that the Chargers missed?
What?
Sorry. Did you see this field goal that the Chargers just missed with 51 seconds to play in the game?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. But
my dedication on podcast, I'm missing the Chargers.
For those
next me, we just missed.
He was wearing his LA Chargers hat, and the LA Chargers are tied in a 24-24 game right now, and they just missed the field goal with 51 seconds to play. All right, now, as I was saying, that's awesome.
All right.
Go Clippers. Okay.
I should grab my Rams hat out of the freaking living room and just
no, don't do that. They play the Jets this week. Don't do that. I mean, you'll be safe. You'll be safe. They'll be all right. All right. As I was saying, let's bring it all back. So look, so I saw the articles saying that the Impact viewership drops, and to me, I was like, I know the reason why these articles are framed this way. And they're framed this way because people love negative Impact articles. That's what people respond to, is negatively framed articles about Impact Wrestling. But I did not see this as a negative. Not that the numbers being less this week than they were last week is anything other than a drop, right? I'm not suggesting that. But we all understand that the spike in viewership when Kenny Omega was on the show was an anomaly, right? Like that was like when if you're having, it's like when WWE announces that Stone Cold is going to appear on Monday Night Raw. You're going to get a spike in viewership, and WWE is going to do everything they can on an episode to get the audience to come back the following week, but there is going to be a drop. So similarly, right? Impact put on the best show they could last Tuesday. Wednesday? Tuesday. Yeah, they put on the best show they could last Tuesday. And guess what? They retained some of the viewers, some of that spike in viewership. They retained some of those because you said it was 166 before Kenny Omega was on. It was 240 when Kenny Omega was on the show. And then the week after he was on the show, it was 177. So that's an increase of what, 11,000 viewers?
Yeah,
right?
And then an increase of about 13,000 or so on Twitch.
Right. And so that tells me that you retained some of the viewership. And I think that people just are used to spinning these things in a negative way. And you could hear what I'm saying and say, I'm trying to spin it in a positive way. But to me, like, I don't really see that as a spin, because like I said, it's totally understandable that there was going to be a spike and a drop, right? Like you weren't going to get those same 50,000 people to tune in. People that were like, what's Kenny Omega going to do? Okay, you saw what he's going to do. Yeah. So most of the people just wanted to see what he's going to do. You saw what he's going to do. Okay, that makes total sense, right? Like to me, that doesn't translate to, oh, Impact is terrible, people don't want to watch again. Like, bruh, there's so much wrestling on TV right now.
Yeah.
On TV or streaming or something. Like, how much bandwidth do you think people have for wrestling? Even like the most hardcore wrestling fans are not watching everything.
Yeah.
They're not watching everything. Since AEW started, I have not watched NXT live, I don't think once. You know what I mean? Like I'll catch it either on the stream on the show or, something like that. But like you only have so much bandwidth for this stuff that you're just going to keep watching, right? So I said all that just to say that I don't think that this is a negative for Impact Wrestling that their viewership didn't retain the numbers of. I mean, it would have been a huge positive if it did, but to me, I don't know. I didn't think it was realistic they would retain all of those viewers. I think they retained some. Clearly, they retained some of those viewers, and I look at that as a positive because they put on a good show. And so, yeah, to me, I don't know, man. Like when I see those negatively framed Impact articles, I always look at them and I'm like, okay, well, what's the story here? And is this really a negative thing? Because it's certainly being presented as a negative because people, they are used to looking at Impact in that negative light. But we'll talk more about that later.
All right, so let's throw this topic. Let me throw this topic at you next. So this has been a little controversial with Impact fans, and it's the Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone segments that they've been playing. It's a paid ad. If it's gone over your head, they're clearly playing off the chatter that internet trolls and Impact trolls have been saying to the company on their social media and everything throughout all these years. They're just kind of doubling down on those things. Now, it's bothering a lot of people because some of them are narratives that we would like to get away from. You know, Tony Schiavone did a live stream the other day. He streams after Impact, much like Don Callis does with Jimmy Jacobs. And, you know, they said someone asked him what non-contracted AEW talent would you like to see in AEW or see wrestle in AEW? And he said the Good Brothers. He's like, they work for a shitty promotion, but I don't know if they're getting paid on time, you know? So
oh man,
there's
funny.
certain narratives we would like them to get away from because that the pay issue has not been an issue for a long time.
Where did he say this at?
It was he does a live like Facebook stream. Might be
okay. All right, yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't care about kayfabe review shows. You know, I said the same thing with Aftershock when that came out. I was like, no one cares about, you know, which I don't know if that's what Tony's is either. But so that being said, a lot of people don't like it. It's clearly magnifying the internet troll chatter. I think the first time I saw, I was like, okay, this is kind of funny. Before I realized what they were doing, you know, acting like, hey, we're funding Impact by doing this. You know, so what do you got on that? Because I feel
like it's two things. One, clearly they're positioning it where Tony Khan is the heel when he comes on Impact. Tony Khan is the heel when he comes to Impact. Don Callis is the heel when he's a heel both ways, but he's a heel to the AEW fan. Tony Khan is a heel to the Impact fan, right? And the other part of this is I like that AEW is not trying to it's like they're not trying to pretend like people don't see Impact the way they see Impact, right? Like AEW is supposed, like their mission statement is to be, you know, a wrestling show by wrestlers for wrestling fans, right? And so if you're going to be that, then you're going to speak to wrestling fans in the context that they see things, right? And so if you're going to do that, if you're going to be that, if that's who you are, then you're not going to pretend that fans like to talk nicely about Impact Wrestling, because they don't. Right. Like, you know, one of the things that I was listening to, shout out to the Black Wrestling Podcast. I was listening to their episode this week, and this guy Kaz was on, and he was talking about, you know, he was talking about how much he likes Impact. And, you know, their first response is, oh, I have to like illegally download the stream. And I'm like, bro, can we stop with the I don't know where to find Impact? Right. You know what I mean? It's just like that's just the common theme. I can't find the show. It's on a network. Blah. And listen, it is true that Access TV is not available on every cable system. It's not available on my cable system. But I watch the show on Twitch every week with the beautiful Melissa Santos, and I enjoy it thoroughly. Okay.
And let me throw this out there. When New Japan was on Access TV, that was the only way you could watch it.
Yes.
No one said shit.
Exactly. And I say this every time I hear somebody say that. It's like, yo, if WWE came out tomorrow and said, we're putting a show on Access TV, we know everybody doesn't have Access TV, but we're gonna simulcast it on Twitch, people wouldn't say crap. Wouldn't nobody be like, I can't find that show, I have to illegally download it? You wouldn't hear anybody saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so it's okay. Look, we get it. Access TV is not in every home. It's not on every cable system. It's not like Spike or TNT, right? It's not on every cable system. We get that. But Twitch is everywhere. If you have the internet, which everyone who we're hearing from has the internet, because we're hearing from them on the internet, right? Everybody has Twitch. Everybody has access to Twitch. There's an app on your phone. I have an app on my Xbox One. There's an app on the Fire Stick. Like, you have access to Twitch. You have access to Impact Wrestling. Everyone does. So, like, just this common thing, like, it's just the common thing is to just be like, hey, let's be anti-Impact, right? So just like I said, like with that article, right, from the Combat Republic is framed as not, whatever, I don't know, positive way to frame a decrease in audience, but just knowing that it's framed negatively, people are going to receive it.
I don't think he meant to. He's a pro. We just did a podcast together here on the channel. He's very pro Impact. It wasn't meant to be a negative article.
Well, you can be pro Impact, right? But you understand that people are going to receive something a certain way, right? Okay. So like we were talking about when we were before the show, like it's important to understand that fans will tell you the way they're willing to see something, right? Like when the group that became the New Day first started appearing together, you were seeing a lot of people saying, is this going to be a new Nation of Domination, right? Which, on one hand is annoying. You have no choice but to laugh, because a big reason why they do that is because there's been so few prominent groups of Black people in WWE history, right, that's the only frame of reference they have. But another part of that is that if the New Day would have come out as a heel faction right away, I think the fans would have been more receptive to it right away, because they're telling you right away that they're open to seeing this group this way, right? And so when there's a negative article about Impact that comes out, people are already open to the suggestion that something negative is happening with Impact. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as AEW, right? Again, if you are a show by wrestlers for wrestling fans, then you're going to talk to wrestling fans in a way they understand. And so you're not going to pretend like wrestling fans see Impact and AEW as equals, because they don't. Right. And so if you're AEW, you're going to come on Impact and crap on Impact, because you understand that they already see it that way. And so it's going to make they're going to be receptive to those ads that Tony Khan is doing. And by Tony Schiavone had the line, he said, I asked Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels if they remember when Impact had fans and they were TNA, and they said no. and listen, man, I thought that was just like really funny. I mean, like, again, I like not insulting your fans' intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If AEW was to come on these shows and start pretending like they see Impact as some prestigious promotion where, they just couldn't wait to come here for the competition, then fans aren't going to buy that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fans are they're going to smell a rat. And so I say give people what they want. You know what I mean? Like, people look at Impact as lesser. So show us the AEW people trying to treat Impact as though they're lesser. And I think that now I think there's only so much of that I'm going to be able to stomach. But
right.
But at least it's on brand for what AEW is.
Yeah, you're right. It's on brand, and there is only so much you can stomach. If it's leading towards something storyline wise, then we get it. They're trying to do a slow build with Impact, and you're right. They shouldn't. We're not going to act like they're on this level of all of a sudden. So yeah, that makes sense. We'll continue to monitor how they continue to do these little paid ads and everything. Let's talk about some points from the episode, and like we typically do, we're gonna hit on 3 points each of stuff that stood out to us. And then after that, we'll get into some listener questions. We didn't look through them much beforehand, so we're going to do it live and pick a few out. So I'm going to start here. The first thing that really stood out to me, again, I liked the episode quite a bit, actually. The first thing that stood out to me, or not the first thing, but the first thing I want to talk about is the Moose and Willie Mack stuff. Willie Mack hasn't had a good angle to get invested in a really, really long time, if ever. I know he had a program with Sami Callihan a couple of years ago. I wasn't really into it. I think I kind of dug when he was Rich Swann's tag team partner for a while, but then they were trying to tease like maybe he was going to turn on Rich Swann, and I don't know. He was X Division champion for a little bit, and it was just kind of whatever. He hasn't really had a good angle though, and what they're doing with him with Moose, where Moose continues to like whoop his ass, whether it's outside of the ring or it's in the ring, I think it's building some good sympathy for Willie Mack that we typically haven't gotten with his character in a while. And I don't know that they build sympathy for many of the baby faces in any kind of angle. And that's what happens when there's 50-50 booking or or no one gets hot, you're also not getting that sympathy either. So Willie Mack, he has not got one over on Moose yet. Yeah, you genuinely feel bad when Moose is sitting there. This is 3 matches now that he's knocked him the hell out, and really nice storytelling here. Really good long-term storytelling. Someone tried to tell me the money roll was long-term storytelling, and I can't buy that. I can't buy that. That's going absolutely nowhere.
For that to be the case, the money roll would have to be the character.
Yeah, right.
And like we have to like know about the money roll's hopes and desires.
Right.
The dreams of the money roll.
No one wants to spend it. It just, it seems like this inside joke they're just going to keep carrying like for years, perhaps. I don't really know. But, getting back to the Moose and Willie Mack thing, really excellent. And I guess my negative, I don't want to call it negative. They have a match at Genesis where for some reason Willie Mack is way smaller than Moose in the graphic. And it bothers me quite a bit when I'm looking at it. But with that being said, Willie Mack challenged him to an I Quit match.
Right.
I don't think this match needs to be at Genesis. It would be a great hard to kill match. I can't think what the hell else Moose and Willie Mack could do that's more important than this feud, than have an I Quit match with each other. And I think an I Quit match is the definition of what should be at a pay-per-view called hard to kill. And it would give Willie Mack something really excellent to do. And I think Moose threw us off the scent a little bit with, he's talking about Rich Swann, and all of a sudden it hit us with a different main event. We were expecting Moose was going to wrestle him. But what they're doing is really good. I think it's going to be a great match. I think Willie Mack's probably going to lose again. I can't imagine Moose saying I quit. And this is what's interesting. I quit matches, the heel always loses, always. I think when Rey Mysterio lost to Chavo Guerrero years ago, that's the only wrestling match. And someone I'm sure is going to correct me in the comments because they always do. But that's not a bad thing. But, please feel free to correct me. But I can't think of another time that a babyface actually lost.
Right.
And, so I don't see Willie Mack losing this. And then the last point I want to make was that when I think Gia might have been interviewing after the match, Moose, and he was talking about independent wrestlers looking for their opportunities and that they're security guards. Like he's breaking down that third wall a little bit because is it third wall, fourth wall? I don't remember what the term is, but he's breaking that wall down a little bit because we all know that independent wrestlers are the security guards.
Right.
And that's something I thought was cool too. And then he's saying one of them couldn't last 3 minutes in the ring with me. So I'm hoping one of them actually does wrestle Moose. That would actually be.
That's definitely where that's going.
Right. That'd be kind of fun and something different. Him challenging one of the security guards. I know they're a wrestler. And what an amazing opportunity that would be for to introduce a new wrestler to the roster by having him to get that victory. You remember back in the 1, 2, 3 Kid beat Razor Ramon. That was the first. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple times jobbers got one over, but it was because, the wrestler's enemy came and distracted him and they got rolled up or something. That was the first legit jobber wins a match. And all of a sudden you built a star out of it. You can only do something like that once. So it would be a very interesting, creative way to get a new wrestler on.
They tried it years later with Santino Marella. Remember that?
Yep. You're right.
Yep. So, but it's still though it's a great game. That's a good angle. I think that actually could be a pretty cool thing. But my thought about that was like, I say often that I think, and I'm not sure this works so well in the empty arena setting, but I think that Impact could do a better job with squash matches. And when I say they can do a better job with squash matches, I mean, again, if you want to sell us the idea of Triple XL versus the Diener as a big match, then we need to see Triple XL and the Dieners winning matches so that when we see them take on each other, we think of both of these teams as winners, right? And so you can only do that if you have other people for them to look good against. And so that's why you bring in the independent talent to me. And I feel like that's something we don't really see enough on Impact. And so if they can book the independent talent to work security, right, to work a security gimmick, then they could book them to come do a squash match, right? I mean, to me, I think it's a really simple thing, right? Like, have Triple XL cut a promo in the back so we can learn their personality. Didn't let us see a match. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy character building. I talk about NXT a lot, and when I used to watch NXT often, like, that's just what they would do, right? Like, we're gonna introduce you to an act, we're gonna show you the act, and boom, now you know the act, right? And then in a few weeks, this act is gonna have an important match. It's so easy. It is so easy. Like, I don't know, whatever. So, but yeah, they're definitely gonna do something where he's gonna end up challenging these individual wrestlers one-on-one, and where it goes, I think that would be really cool if there was, a future signee among the independent wrestler talent.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if they pull the trigger on it. So what do you got?
So my first big takeaway from watching Impact this week, and really just paying attention to wrestling this week, is I feel like we're watching the rise of Chris Bay into a superstar, right? Like, I mean, to me, I look at Chris Bay and I think he's Impact Wrestling's next big star. And if he's not, then he should be, right? Like I'm looking at Chris Bay, and Chris Bay, he has a charisma where he hops off the screen. He stands out when he's in a match or in a backstage segment or whatever. Like, what he's doing stands out. Like he did, on this episode, he had, the backstage promo where he convinces Rohit to come to the ring with him. Then, he does the thing where Rohit, he gets on Rohit's nerves and Rohit ends up hitting him. But it turns out it was all Chris Bay's plan to get the disqualification victory. So now he can go back and claim that he has a right to an X Division title shot because he has a victory over the X Division champion. And I was like, yo, that is so good. And a big thing is that he sold you that with his facial impressions. I mean, yeah, the announcer said it, but you could tell based on his you know what I mean? Like, he was doing it so well that he conveyed his thoughts to you, right? Like, through his expression. And I'm like, yo, that's perfect. Like, he did that, right? That's an example of individual talent. And I'm hearing people talk about Chris Bay. I'm hearing people talk about Chris Bay that don't normally talk about Impact Wrestling, right? So, we talk about Chris Bay being on the New Japan Super J Cup or whatever it was. And so, like, that's just another example. Chris Bay, I think, has the potential to be Impact Wrestling's next AJ Styles. And when I say the next AJ Styles, I mean, he has the potential to be the next guy that you're going to love when he's somewhere else. And that Impact can say, look how great he was when he was here. But the key is they got to make sure that he's putting in, big matches and work that's going to stand out, that you can repackage into something to sell later, right? Do something with him while you have him. So to me, I feel like we're watching the rise of Chris Bay. And if we're not, then we should be.
What's interesting too, AJ Styles, when he was a part of TNA, he was not a charisma magnet by any stretch of the imagination. Like, right. Chris Bay has a lot more charisma.
Yeah.
At this, I don't know now, but at least this stage in his career that AJ had back then. Here's something interesting I want to say about before I get onto my next point about the Chris Bay thing. So they're and you're right, he sold that with his facial expressions. So the story is that if they can unmask Manic and prove that he's TJP, Rohit's going to get his title back. Scott D'Amore is the one who told him to wrestle as Manic to begin with. So a little bit of a hole in the plot there, unless that's part of the story. I'm going to assume it's not at this point. I think it's an oversight personally, but he was...
No. So the story is not, can they get Manic to forfeit the title? The story was actually that Chris Bay finessed Rohit into getting him a victory.
Okay.
Right? Because
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because that's the bigger setup. That's the bigger setup there.
You're right. Okay. Yeah. I can live with that. The next thing I want to point out, I'm not into the Karate Man thing. I do like Ethan Page. I think he adds a lot. I think if he does depart, I think he's a huge a huge hole. That's not someone you can replace. I think what he does with the vlog is really good. I've even said, and I think he even liked the tweet at one point that I said, Impact should actually consult him for how to properly do YouTube and social media. I'm not saying he needs to be in charge, but he's someone who gets it and who's successful with it, and they should pay him extra to consult for that. Like that's what he adds to the product, just aside from being a wrestler and being part of the North. And Impact has had this issue, I think, for several years now, being a smaller company, is that when they put the titles on someone for, hey, they're going to hold the title for a year, when that year is up, they're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Like, what? That's why I'm actually surprised Taya stayed on after that long knockouts title reign, because I mean, thank God now they have tag team titles that she can compete for if she stays. But I said that back then. It's like, what the hell is she gonna do now? And I think we see this a lot. We saw with LAX, they put the title on them for a long time. We've seen it for a few guys. Lashley had the belt a really long time, which he always wanted to go back to WWE. But once you do that in a smaller company, there's nowhere to go but down from there. So I can see why he would potentially want to do something else. But what they're portraying on TV right now, to where now it's getting like borderline comedy with him, like I'm not feeling it. And we talk a lot about the overuse of comedy and bad comedy on Impact. It's not that there's not a place for comedy. It's just that when the roster's this small, there's not really a place for comedy. It's different if you're like AEW's roster is ridiculous. I mean, they can do a whole AEW Dark for 2 hours and feature people who aren't on Dynamite every week. I mean, it's crazy. So when your roster is of that size, you can be like, okay, dude, we're gonna have these comedy guys, we're gonna have these types of angles. You can do all the different flavors. That's why Ring of Honor is kind of, and it's one of the reasons I don't like it. It's a little too one flavor, but they don't have the room to do. I get it. They don't have a room to be like, okay, well, this is going to be our comedy wrestler, and this is going to be our serious guy, and this is going to be our cruiserweight stuff and our heavyweight. Like they have to find a genre that represents the entire brand.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think it really works when we're watching Impact, because then there's not enough wrestlers for us to take serious. I said this about like WWE's tag team division years ago. I was telling someone the only serious, this was several years ago, obviously, I was like, the only serious tag team they have is the Wyatts, and the rest of the teams are all comedy.
Right.
I was like, they don't have anyone to wrestle. And that was a lot of the reason they ended up breaking that team up, because they didn't have anyone that was on that level, So I see that issue with Impact, where like there's not enough serious wrestlers to and that's why we talk about the main event scene's not that strong, or just because there's just too much funny shit going on. So for me, when you have the North, who's a really serious tag team, and then you start bringing in the karate shit, I'm just like, there's probably many people who do like it. Yeah, it's, for me, it's too much. Like, there's already like a lot of comedy, and now he's coming in doing this. Yes, he's good at it. Yes, he's entertaining with it. I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah, I just don't really care for it, given the other things going on with the show.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I actually kind of like it. I like it because the bigger story that they're telling. You mentioned Ethan Page's vlogs. I watch Ethan Page's vlogs, and to me, it's apparent that he's not re-signing, or is not either at the time he did the blogs, he was not re-signed with Impact, and I don't think he's going to re-sign with Impact. I hope he doesn't re-sign with Impact. No disrespect to Impact, but if they're not paying this man something that he's willing to stay, then I hope he can go cash in. So I think it's apparent that he's not staying, and so what they're doing is they're crafting the North's breakup angle, right? And so the story that I'm seeing here is that Ethan Page is and they said it, he's unraveling, he's losing it, right? And so part of this losing it is he's dipping into his alter ego, the Karate Man. And I like the way it was done. I thought it was actually well done. I think it's it's giving Ethan Page a chance to show his versatility of being able to do different characters. And yeah, I mean, I like it. I don't have a problem with it. I thought it was a nice twist. And again, it furthers the storyline that he's losing it. And Josh Alexander is trying to nicely tell Ethan Page that, hey, you need to get some help because right now it's not working. There's something going on with you and it's not working. And what's gonna happen is Josh is just gonna get fed up. He's gonna get fed up with Ethan Page's multiple personalities. He's gonna get fed up with his screw ups and them not getting the tag titles back. And he's eventually going to attack him. He's gonna give Ethan Page a beat down and send him to AEW.
So there was a final point I was going to make before you got into your next point, and I don't remember what it was now. So, I was going to ask a question because I was at work trying to watch the episode. Did Brian Myers beat him cleanly?
So it was Brian Myers against Josh Alexander. And I think it was a disqualification. I don't remember the finish of it specifically, but the part that matters is that Josh Alexander ended up mad because Ethan Page cost him the match and then did the Karate Man thing, and Josh Alexander was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like he just wasn't feeling it, and so that was the point, right? The point is what happened, but I think I don't remember what the actual finish was to the match. Like the Karate Man thing is what stood out, is that Ethan Page came out and we got to see him do the Karate Man thing. I thought it was cool.
Rare heel versus heel match.
Right. Very rare. Very rare. All right. So my second big takeaway that I took from this show was at the end of the show, they sold me on the main event. They sold me on Hard to Kill. I was very, up in the air on whether or not I was going to order this show. In my opinion, as much as I've been a supporter of Impact Wrestling, and as much as they really have delivered on a lot of this stuff, I'm not sure that Empty Arena Wrestling is worth paying a pay-per-view price for. And they're charging a pay-per-view price. So, I was really on the fence about ordering Hard to Kill. But I gotta say, the way that they've done this Kenny Omega angle has actually gotten me interested in seeing the match. Like I'm interested to see, Kenny Omega and the Bullet Club against, Rich Swann and who was Rich Swann's partners again? Oh my God! Yes, this is going to be good. The Motor City Machine Guns. Motor City Machine Guns do not get the credit they deserve for being, I don't know if pioneers is the right word, but certainly early adapters. They were some of the early adapters of this high speed style that everyone loves so much, and they were some of the best at it. And and so when I'm just thinking about this, like, this is going to be a good match. Just having Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns all on one team is going to be crazy. And I gotta say, Kenny Omega is kind of growing on me. A lot of people, again, I was not a New Japan fan. I didn't have anything against New Japan. I just was never a consistent watcher of New Japan. And so, like, I didn't have a preconceived notion of Kenny Omega or the Good Brothers, the Bullet Club. Like, I didn't have any fandom of them from where they were before. So this idea that you're going to just put them on my TV and I'm going to just love them because of what they did in New Japan, not going to happen. And I said this about the Good Brothers a long time ago. To me, they were giving off Booker T vibes, right? Like, I'm just here to collect the check, hawk my merchandise, and basically bleed this place for as much money as I can before I'm on to something I really want to do. Till WWE calls me back or till AEW calls me, whatever, right? That's the vibes I was getting from the Good Brothers up until this point. And so, man, like I said, I through one show, they have kind of turned this thing around for me, and I'm actually interested to see this main event. I almost pulled out my phone and bought the pay-per-view on the Fight TV app right after the show. I almost did that. So, congratulations, you have sold me on Hard to Kill.
That's a huge main event. Very exciting. And they're clearly going to bank on this main event because next 2 weeks they're going to be doing best of episodes. Those episodes stink. And then they're doing awards and everything. I'm not going to watch them most likely. Yeah. And I don't even know if we're going to podcast next couple weeks. I guess we'll discuss that later. But
we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of best of. It doesn't matter if it's a best of Tupac CD. Like, I'm not interested in that kind of content. I never really have. I'd rather just original content that just get episodes. But I get it's the end of the year. Viewership is fourth quarter of every year in television. Viewership's down, especially December. Viewership's down. I get it, but they're clearly banking on this match because they're going to come back and have 2 episodes to announce the entire card for Hard to Kill.
Right.
So I said this last year when they were like, okay, we're giving our prestigious awards and doing, the best of matches. Like, you're completely halting the momentum up to the pay-per-view, in my opinion. It's 2 weeks where we're not even I'm sure in these best of episodes they're going to play as much Kenny Omega shit as they possibly can. I will bet anything on that. But it does kill momentum for me up to the pay-per-view because then you have 2 episodes to announce the whole card.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking online. Okay, we know there's going to be a knockouts tag team match. Clearly Jordan and Jazz are going to be in this because, like, we already know what that match is because Impact takes old stars from yesteryear, ECW, and gets them on the pay-per-view card. Like, that's just what they do. So that's what we're going to get here. It should be Havoc and Nevaeh because they earned it with everything they've done for the tag team division up to this point, just like Tasha and Kiera towards the tag team division up at this point. Jordan Grace has been the furthest thing from the tag team division that you could possibly have in that division aside from Su Yung. And I won't even say Su Yung because she was still a tag team as Susie.
Right.
I would have thought the Moose and Willie Mack thing was better for the pay-per-view. Why even have Genesis? Like, take a break. It's pay-per-view month. You don't need an Impact Plus show that month too. And then Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan, we're getting that first Impact of the year. Like, it's not going to be at the pay-per-view. So maybe they're doing a tag team match with Sami Callihan and Ken Shamrock. I told you we were going to get a tag team match of those two against Eddie and Tommy Dreamer. I was like, it's coming at some point.
Oh my God. Is Tommy Dreamer in this?
He's not in this, but
not yet.
He's not yet. Let's put it out there like that. Not yet. Eddie needs a tag team partner. Only one guy comes to the rescue. That's Davey Richards is not popping out.
Match time.
Yep, it's happening. We'll see, but there's a lot they got to do in a very short amount of time. So that's just be interesting. I think the Genesis show was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Remember, they've had a couple pay-per-views when they had Impact Plus and Twitch the same month as a pay-per-view. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not really necessary to do that this month, but
I got to say, I think they're earning my trust a little bit here with the stuff that they've pulled off in the last few weeks. I think they're earning a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to say, let's see how it plays out. I think we can look ahead and be like, man, that feels like a lot of unnecessary wrestling. And I think that's fine to feel that way. But I think that when we look back in the weeks that are going to go by, we'll have said that something interesting happened on those shows. Now, will I be sitting down watching all those shows? Probably not. But a good thing that they've been doing is they've been putting all the content up on Impact Plus lately. They've been putting up every episode of Impact. They've been putting up the Twitch specials. Yeah, not Twitch specials, but the Impact Plus specials. They've been putting those up. And so all the content has been there and has been accessible. And to be honest, that's the way it should be. Like, I think if you're Impact, the biggest thing you need to do is everything is promo right now. Everything is promo right now. I used to say this. I used to try to help my nephew promote his music. And, I used to tell him, like, we don't need to be focused on trying to release an album like we're, you know, like we're Sony or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, yes, it'd be nice if you had some big album release and, you know, you got 100,000 streams in 3 months, you know, and you made money. But the reality is you're trying to build a fan base. And when you're trying to build a fan base, everything is promo, right? And so I think that's the attitude that Impact needs to take right now. Like, everything is promo. Just give people product, make them like you, and then they'll return the favor by buying stuff. You know what I mean? Give them the wrestling for free and let them buy the merch. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to squeeze people with an Impact Plus subscription. I mean, you do have to put something of value for the people who are paying for Impact Plus. You got to put something of value there. But I think you got to just find ways to give people these episodes. You just got to make this stuff available to as many people as possible. And that's how I think you're going to build your audience. Give it to as many people as possible. Do things to help create conversation. And that's how you're going to grow your audience.
All right, so my last point was the baptism of Cody Deaner. I thought that was really one of the coolest things they've done in a while. Aside from the some of the Su Yung stuff that I've really liked recently, but this was one of the coolest things they did in a while. I've been saying that teams like the Deaners need something to do. If you don't give them something to do for, you know, so long, at some point you're going to have to split them up because there's they don't have momentum. Their opponents don't have momentum. So now we're at a point with the Deaners. Like, okay, we've had the Deaners in the company for a year, 2 years now. Haven't done anything. Don't even think they've had a title shot, with the exception of that match they had in the barn or whatever, the Deaner compound,
which was really good, by the way.
Yeah, that was fun, but they haven't really had anything to do.
Right.
It's interesting because Cody Deaner has a brand, a Just Giver, and you know he's a public motivational speaker with, you know, that's part of his gimmick, not his gimmick, but his brand. So it's interesting to do this, but I've never really cared for the Eric Young, Joe Doering pairing so far. I was more intrigued when we thought Sami Callihan was going to be part of it, and Chris Bay is like, oh shit, what are they doing here? And then they backed up. I'm a guy who likes stables. I really do. I think that's one of the reasons I like, you know, the Dark Order and some AEW things, because they're very stable oriented. And I kind of like him being involved. And again, it's another tag team that the tag team division was already, some people find a division very deep. I find it very shallow because right now you're getting rid of the Deaners. The North isn't a thing anymore. I think there's even obviously we don't have the Rascals now, and Larry D's in jail, so you know, there's not really a tag team division right now,
right?
But this is really interesting. I can't wait to see what his character turns into, and I like the Eric Young stuff prior to Bound for Glory. They're doing all these little videos. The fact that they're revisiting that again. And Cody Deaner, a very random person to be involved. I don't know if they really do have a history or not, or if that's just made up for the television show. They very well could. Well, I guess they were both in TNA at one point together. So I can't wait to see where it goes. I like that they didn't ignore Cousin Jake this episode.
Right.
To where, you know, they just acted like he wasn't even alive. You know, obviously they're going to try to do something where he's with Rhino, which he'll get a little bit of a rub for that. To be involved with Rhino. And now I think what excites me about this as well is what's going to become of Cousin Jake. He wrestles locally around here a lot as Jake something. I've seen him live many times. Bought one of his shirts one time here at Glory Pro. When he is Jake something, he has a lot of star power. Like there's a degree of star power as that character that he doesn't have as Cousin Jake. So where are they going to go with him? Are they going to repackage him a little bit? You know, at first I thought they were going to do this, you know, Cody with Eric Young and Doering maybe against Tommy Dreamer and Rhino. And I mean, and Jake. That's what I kind of thought they were going.
Any excuse to get Tommy Dreamer on the show for you.
They're going to get Tommy Dreamer on Hard to Kill. Like, it is guaranteed. He's either going to be a part of this or he's going to be Eddie Edwards' tag team partner. One
he's
of
going to cash in the Money in the Bank for the world title.
Right, yeah. It's like the meme with the button with the red Tommy Dreamer. Yeah, mystery tag team partner, mystery opponent. Tommy Dreamer. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to see what's next. My main concern is that they don't have the confidence in Cody or Jake at some point into having them in a high profile match on a pay-per-view against each other.
Right.
The story is good enough that they should. I don't think they trust the two of them to wrestle each other, just like they don't trust Rohit to wrestle one-on-one at a pay-per-view unless he has at a pay-per-view. I feel like he hasn't, though. And we've talked about this before. There's certain teams, certain wrestlers that we don't feel as viewers that Impact has any confidence in.
Right.
They might think they're talented, but when it comes down to, can we give them a high profile match? They don't trust that to happen. So I think they could actually have a great Dina versus Jake story at the pay-per-view that could get us more invested in anything more invested in that than anything they've done before. I don't think they're going to, though. They're most likely going to throw other pieces in there because it's a pay-per-view that throw as many wrestlers at it as possible instead of doing a good story. So, that's all I got to say. That's about that. The Diener stuff is pretty cool with Eric Young. I'm just curious. I can't wait to see what's next for Cody, how they're going to build this and transition from there.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what's next. But more importantly to me is what's the evolution of Jake? Because I do look at Jake, cousin Jake, and I see something, no pun intended, right? I see something there that is like untapped that we don't know what this guy can be. And so, look, I mean, if you were drawing up a wrestler, he looks the part, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, let's see what this guy can do. Look at all of the crap that they picked for Ethan Page to do before they let him do Ethan Page. And then before they signed Josh Alexander, which really allowed him to blossom as Ethan Page. Yeah. And so, I mean, sometimes you just got to put somebody into the right role to allow them to flourish. So give Jake a chance, and I'm very interested to see what comes of that.
I'm transitioning back to the Chargers hat because they just beat the Raiders.
All right. So my last takeaway from this episode of Impact Wrestling was that I loved this version of Carl Anderson. They had him on the bus with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was hyping him up, do the thing, and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were commenting how this version of Kenny Omega is just like a corny dude. But I like it because it's a wrestling heel. Like, a wrestling heel is not supposed to be somebody who you want to hang out with, right? Like, a wrestling heel is supposed to be somebody who either you're afraid of or you want to punch them in the face, or you're like, yo, how does this person keep winning? They're such a weaselly dork, right? And so you are not supposed to like a heel. Can you hear me? You're not supposed to like the heel, right? And so I like what Kenny Omega is being annoying, right? Like, he's this guy, you're like, oh God, I hate him. He's such a cornball, but damn it, he's a good wrestler, right? Like, and so that's great. And then, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, be obnoxious, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever. I already didn't like them for reasons I mentioned before, but at least now there was a new fire lit under Carl Anderson during this episode. And I think it was something about being around Kenny Omega and Don Callis, which made him feel like, yeah, I really want to show what I can do. I want to show that I still got it. I want to show that the me that you saw on WWE TV for all those years is not the machine gun, right? And I think that he looked motivated to prove that for the first time since he's been in Impact Wrestling, for the first time since he's been on American television. And so, I was excited to see it. I enjoyed seeing it. And that was part of what roped me into being excited for this main event. He was talking trash to the Machine Guns backstage when Chris Sabin was saying something about like it was Chris Sabin or Rich Swann. They were saying how they wanted to go talk to Kenny Omega, and Carl Anderson was like, hey, I call him Kenny, you call him Champ. I was like,
oh yeah, dude.
I was like, yeah, he's being a jerk. And but I liked it, man. I liked it. So I remember years ago when I first started paying attention to New Japan Pro Wrestling was when AJ Styles went there, and I started seeing more of this Bullet Club thing. And then I was like, there's this guy there who I've never seen before. And I was like, but he actually looks pretty interesting. Like, he seems like, a pretty cocky dude. I'm like, who is this guy? And it was Carl Anderson. And so I was interested in like, what these guys can do. But then they went to WWE, and the WWE just never saw any value in them, and they never did anything with them. And so this is the first version of this Carl Anderson that I'm seeing, and I like it. I am interested to see this Carl Anderson along with whatever this version of Gallows is and this version of Kenny Omega in a main event against Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Gun. So this kind of goes back to my last point a little bit, but this version of Carl Anderson, I'm loving it, and it's a big reason why I'm already sold on the main event for Hard to Kill.
And I think they're doing a good job. We've talked about Rich Swann maybe not feeling like a world champion or a main eventer, but they ran a couple episodes, Hard to Kill, not episodes, but Hard to Kill commercials with them that I thought were really well done. I want to see a lot more of that in Impact. Like, I mean, a lot more of it. Those little things can help us invest in somebody a little bit. He's being treated as the underdog here a little bit, which I think is helping him. This is where, speaking of Hard to Kill, this is where Tessa Blanchard won the title last year, to my knowledge. And my criticism of that storyline was that Tessa lost her underdog status really quickly. At first, she was an underdog. Everyone was behind it. And then all of a sudden she was beating all the dudes and beating OVE every week. And didn't matter how random her tag team partners were. She was always beating them. And she lost her underdog status quick. And Rich Swann, I think, did have some underdog to him before, got the title, and now they're finding a way to bring that back a little bit. And I think that's going to help elevate his character. But that stuff was really good with Carl and everything. Here's I've talked about the Don Callis flopping quite a bit since I've been doing this. The one thing I don't understand is that 1 minute he's like, I'm the Impact EVP. He did at the end. But then 2 minutes before that, he's calling Kenny Omega the real world champion and telling his champion that you're not shit. Like, I don't understand that. I guess that was
so to me, I think it goes along, like the story here is Kenny Omega, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're an Impact fan or whether you are an AEW fan, the story here is Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is the protagonist to the story. And so, as Impact fans, we might want to see this idea of them putting over Impact. But again, it goes along with, what we're saying. Like, we're not going to pretend like in this world that AEW and Impact are viewed as being on the same level, because they're not, right? Like, they're not viewed at all by any wrestling fans, even Impact fans who view them as being on the same level. If you view AEW and Impact as being on the same level, you are delusional. You're delusional. You're delusional. Impact Wrestling, I said this before, right now, Impact Wrestling is a stepping stone company. It's a place people go to get their profile up so they can get paid somewhere where they actually are willing to spend that money. And until Impact Wrestling starts, paying their stars to stick around on exclusive deals, where you're not seeing them wrestling any and everywhere, then you're gonna have them be that. And so Rich Swann, I think, is feeling more and more like the world champion when they're putting him across from Kenny Omega, who's this big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the most disrespectful things you can do to your world champion is to do a main event angle and your world champion's not in it. Like, this is one of the things I was saying about when Brian Cage was the Impact World Champion. Yeah, I feel like there were 2 or 3 pay-per-views where he was the world champion and didn't main event the show. And I'm like, that's not good. That's not good.
Right.
That's not good. And that's no disrespect to LAX and Penta and Phoenix and, you know, Tessa and Sammy, you know, because that, you know, those acts and those matches were great. Both of those matches deserve to main event those pay-per-views. But if you're supposed to be the world champion, you should be in that spot.
Right. And we talked about before world championship or championship matches in general kicking off the show. You know, kicking off an episode of Impact, to where we don't see that as, oh, how cool, there's a world title match first. It means we take it as, okay, this champion or this title or this matches and shit. You know, that's how you and I have both viewed it. So let's see if we can get into some listener stuff again. We're doing it live. Didn't really get a chance to go through.
Let me put it out here before we get into the listener questions. First of all, thank you guys for sending in questions. When you send your questions, please include your name and where you're from so we can give you guys a shout out. I have a question, and BQ, tell me if you're cool with people responding with this question. I want to know if you guys are feeling sold on Hard to Kill right now. Like right now, we basically only know one match, right? We know the main event, and we know that the Knockouts tag titles are going to be, the finals of that is going to be at Hard to Kill. Other than that, we don't really know anything else is going to be on that card. How are you guys feeling about that card right now? I just said that based on what we've seen so far from basically the end of the show, right? The hot angle with Kenny Omega and the Bullet Club against Rich Swann and the Young Bucks. Not Young Bucks, the Motor City Machine Guns. I'm already sold to buy the pay-per-view. What are you guys thinking right now? Are you guys planning to buy the pay-per-view or not? All right,
cool. Love it. First, I'll just shout out Church of Tupac. He's a new subscriber, huge fan of TNA from 2005, then dipped out during the Hogan era. So glad to have you aboard with us. And then let's see what else we got here. RHS Videos was asking if we thought of Jenny or Amy Rose joining Tenille as the influencers. I know I'm probably going to get destroyed for this, but aren't they overweight wrestlers? I don't remember. Huh?
What was the question?
Jenny Rose or Amy Rose from ROH, if they should join Tenille as the influencers.
Jenny Rose, I don't know.
I feel like they're not in the best of shape. And I know I'm probably going to get slammed for body shaming there. That's not really my intent. I'm just basically saying I don't think there's that fits her gimmick.
Yeah. You saying you can't be a fat influencer? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, no. So
I'll have you know, I have 200 followers on Instagram.
And Bat John, another new subscriber. He's a longtime listener, but just subscribe. So much love to you. Okay, so John Marshall said, I really like the show and the channel. My question is, do you think the next set of tapings going forward of Impact will cut back on the over-the-top silliness like the Undead Realm and Johnny Bravo stuff? I feel like it turned off potential new fans and viewers after Slammiversary, and it may stunt the progress gained after the Kenny Omega buzz wears off. I would like to see them cut down on it because I do think that it probably did turn some people off. I think that the Johnny Bravo stuff I've enjoyed more than the bankroll, the money roll that no one wants to spend the money storyline. I enjoy it a lot more than that. The Undead Realm, I like the Undead Realm. I just didn't like when they started spinning it into, Havoc and names aren't as big on the card because that's when it loses, some of its steam. But if they're able to do a Susie and Sue Young versus Kimberly and Deanna, which they could do with editing, then that'll be cooler than any Undead Realm match they've ever done by far. So
true.
I'd be okay with it. But my gut is that no, they're not going to cut back because I think I talked about this on the podcast the other night, the Impact Republic podcast we did, that this seems like with this Impact Plus special, they actually doubled down on it because they could have ended. Larry D could have won the match.
Right. True.
And they could have got rid of that storyline. And then which AC Romero looks really weird shaven, by the way. And then what was the other one? The Money Roll storyline that could have ended as well, and they chose not to. They've doubled down on both those storylines. So no, I think that they see a lot of value in those storylines. You know, I don't think they're going to end. What do you think?
No, I don't think they're going to end either. I think that, again, we're talking about a show where there's no fans, right? Like you can hear a fart in the cameraman. You know what I mean? Like you can hear everything because there's no audience at all. And so you need things like that. You know what I mean? You need things to take you out of the arena setting because the arena setting is lacking something so major. And this show is very much reliant on things you can do outside of the ring area, outside of the arena, pre-tapes, all that type of stuff. And so, you need a lot of that stuff. These guys aren't actors, right? They're not actors. Like, let's not forget that, right? They're not gonna do a scene from The Departed, right? Like this is so comedy is much easier to do because even if comedy is stupid, it still kind of accomplishes its point, right? They're not trying to deliver dramatic emotion. They're not trying to they're not trying to educate you. You can do silly comedy, and so silly comedy is probably easier to do, right, than produce some like serious pre-fight videos.
The King is asking, with Madison leaving a commentary booth, who would you guys like to see replace her? He said he'd like to see Jimmy Jacobs getting a chance. I got a gut feeling Jimmy Jacobs would be good in that role, but Matt Striker is a very clear choice that I think would be a huge mistake. I knew that they were making a change to the booth. I just couldn't really say that, but now that it's out there, I knew that change was coming. I just didn't know who was being swapped out. If it wasn't Matt Striker, that would be a huge mistake. But D'Lo Brown is the one who he did the One Impact Plus show. And I remember I tuned in about 15 minutes late and I sent a tweet. I was like, who is this wonderful man
right
doing color commentary? And I think it's the Bastard Brewery too that we've talked about quite a bit that we like. I think that was the show he did, and he was freaking excellent. I also thought Dave Penzer, when he did the play for the TNA special they did on Access,
oh god,
I thought he sounded excellent too.
Oh, I've actually still never seen that.
Oh, it wasn't that good. I know it got a lot of viewers, but it was very watered down.
Right.
But so you got someone, you're not really a commentary guy, so you maybe
right. I'm not a big commentary guy, but I think the idea, I do remember liking D'Lo when he was on, and I think a D'Lo Matt Striker combo could be, a fresh set of voices, and it could be really good.
Vito Scaletta, he said, "Hey, BQ and TW, I don't watch NWA, but I hear they're back. Are there any NWA stars you want in Impact or back with Impact?" I don't know if you watch NWA or not. I'd love it. Billy Corgan brought a lot of guys to that company who were
in Impact
favorites in TNA.
Yeah,
I think the easy answer and probably what he's alluding to is us saying Eli Drake. But of course we want to see Eli Drake back, but he's doing I really like what he's doing. When he was James Storm's tag team partner and they were the champions before the pandemic happened, like what they were doing was really excellent. But no, I wouldn't like to see anyone come over because I like that promotion too much for what it is. And they're already got stars dropping like flies out of that company, so they're gonna have to replenish that roster. So there's no one there that I'd be like, okay, yeah, Impact needs to bring them.
I mean, first of all, any excuse to get Sienna on my TV, I'm here for it. Melina got thick, and I'm also here for that. Josephus. So listen, when they first started doing the Tim Storm Josephus like saga, I enjoyed that so much. Whew. I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
And again, to me, this goes back to this whole thing about people turning up their nose at Impact because it's not in front of 10,000 fans, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're all watching wrestling, okay? At the end of the day, we're all watching grown men and women put on colorful underwear and pretend to fight. Stop acting like your shit is cooler than my shit, because it's all fake fighting, okay? Like it's all fake soap opera, fake fighting. Like it's, you know what I mean? And it's fun and we love it, right? And we love it. So stop acting like you're cooler than me because you're watching fake fighting in front of 10,000 people and I'm watching fake fighting in front of 500 people. You know what I mean? Like, like, please, like, get over yourself. So yeah, man. I mean, like, I do enjoy the NWA product, though. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was really good. Like I said, I love Josephus. Like we said, I lost 3% vision in my eye. Like, I just thought that was like a really fun and good character. I'm always down to see, new talent, come in. I wish Impact could have gotten Ricky Starks, man. Bro, I'm a big Ricky Starks fan, dude. Like Ricky Starks is almost like a miniature version of The Rock from 1999. Like you know what I mean? He's got like that pretty boy look to him. And, like I said, he comes off kind of flamboyant sometimes, but then he just flip that switch and be like, I'm so mad. I'm just going to kick your ass. I'm going to rip your face off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it in my loafers and my Gucci shirt. You know what I mean? With my chain hanging out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yo, man, I like, man, Ricky Starks. I like this guy. I like it. I started an argument on Facebook. I said he was so much better than Adam Cole.
Oh, he is. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man, you know what I mean? So yeah, NWA has a lot of talent, and I think that anytime you can infuse new talent into a show is a good thing. And if NWA can stay around for long enough, then a lot of those talent will end up on Impact. Because somebody posted in there's an Impact Facebook fan group, and somebody posted like, where would Impact be if AJ Styles never left? I was like, yo, they'd be in the same spot. Like one person doesn't make that kind of difference. And you gotta rotate, you gotta go places. Like WWE has created this weird, isolated universe where, they exist and nobody else does. And people like Randy Orton can just stay there for a million years because there's nowhere else he can go that's going to pay him what he makes there, right? Like it's just, it's different, it's weird, it's an anomaly. But in everywhere else in the wrestling world, people rotate from place to place so they can take their act to a fresh audience, right? So, yeah, I mean, so all that talent that's on the NWA show, they will be somewhere else eventually, So, yeah, apparently Nick Aldis is like blackballed from WWE or something, but other than that, everyone else is going to be somewhere else eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Kruger Child made a comment. Renee Michelle would be a great tag team partner for Tenille. If you don't follow her on Instagram, she posts a lot of sexy pics on the beach, similar to Tenille. I will check that out. But you're right, she would be excellent. He also said, I appreciate what you guys do. It's hard to find honest and unbiased coverage of the Impact product out there. Most of it is hyper toxic or hyper positive. So yeah, we definitely like to be in the middle of being critical and being positive. There are podcasts out there. I see a lot of podcasters try to get off the ground with covering Impact by this everything is amazing, and that it's just everything isn't amazing. It's
right.
So yes, we want to be in the middle because that's what's real. We're trying to keep it real. Christopher Bell said it feels like Impact is AEW's bitch. I don't see how Impact benefits from this except for extra viewers, but how long do extra viewers last? It would be different if the Good Brothers could show up on AEW and beat down a few teams, then call out the Young Bucks. Impact kicked off with an AEW recap, featured an AEW paid advertisement, and ended with an AEW segment. When do Impact stars get to be featured on AEW or get the upper hand over AEW?
It's my ball. Like, yo, look, man, the world's not fair. AEW is the one bringing something to the table here, which is a broader audience. Plus, I think by doing this work with Impact, AEW, they further their mission to be something for the wrestling fan. Wrestling fans love talking about the idea of crossovers. And so to me, this is actually great for AEW too, because here's another thing that, kind of goes a little unsaid here, is that AEW puts a lot of talent on TV that is not ready for TV. Like, people talk about AEW Dark. Like, AEW Dark exists because AEW has so much talent they're putting on TV that is not ready for TV. And the only way you get ready for TV is by getting reps on TV, right? They did something last week where they had these guys come out rapping, and I was like, bro, this is awful by awful standards. Like, nobody thinks this is good. This is terrible. And these guys were out there, like, they were trying to sell it. They were trying their best to sell it, but it just wasn't good. And so, I'm like, there's so much of this act, right, that just needs fine tuning, but you only get a chance to see how it looks in front of a crowd by going out and doing it in front of a crowd, right? And so AEW has a lot of people like that. Other than that, like, they've worn through all the indie darling acts that they had, right? So at this point, they got to start freshening up the matchups and adding some new faces to the mix, right? So it's not like they don't get anything from working with Impact. They're getting buzz, right? Like, people, it's not that working with Impact is giving AEW a buzz that they did not have before, but AEW they already have people's attention. And by doing the crossover, you're now creating more buzz. Like, for example, Triple H, who's the head of NXT, he said on, like, the post takeover conference call that now NXT and WWE are open to working with other promotions.
I saw.
Which is laughable, right? It is laughable, because that's been WWE's whole thing, is we exist on an island, and whatever you were before you got here doesn't matter. Whatever else you did outside of here doesn't matter. I think, I saw a quote when Sting signed with WWE in like 2014 or 2016, whatever that was, the Vince McMahon said, I pulled him out of obscurity.
Right.
And I'm like, bruh, like, come on, man. Come on. Like, it's not WWE. Nothing is WWE, right? Nothing has the longevity or the what's the word when you're like
brand power, like
dug in and solidified with the audience. Anyway, they're entrenched with the audience, right? The brand recognition, like, nothing has that, and that's undeniable. But to call anything that's not WWE obscurity is just like, to me, it's corny, right? It's corny, and it's like, it's overkill, and it's the whole punching down thing. So anyway, the idea that, now WWE is suggesting that they're open to working with other promotions, like, again, that just tells you that AEW is on to something here with this whole working with Impact thing. You know what I mean? And, again, look at all the people with the common trope. I don't know where to find Impact. Do I have to download it? Or, you know what I mean? Like, they got all the common excuses ready. But yeah, man, I mean, like, Impact stands to benefit more because they're going to get more viewership, but AEW needs to stay hot. So they need to do things that are buzzworthy. And this was buzzworthy for them.
I don't know. There's this clip on YouTube. I think it's called Ric Flair acknowledges TNA on WWE TV or something like that. And it's prior to WrestleMania, where the Sting is having the match with Triple H. Mm-hmm. And Michael Cole goes, they're doing the little round table pre-show that they do. And he's like, I mean, when was the last time Sting was in a ring? And Ric Flair starts going, no, see, that's where you're wrong. He's been wrestling part-time for about 5 or 6 years now. And Booker T's next to him is like, I mean, he's not fighting guys like you and, me and Booker, which he did fight him and Booker in TNA. But
right. Yeah.
It's funny because Ric Flair was starting to like allude to TNA, and then Michael Cole kept trying to cut him off. It's actually pretty funny. So this kind of ties into the last thing. So Mark Clark says, now Impact working with AEW. AEW has some sort of relationship with NWA and AAA in Mexico. Do you think Impact will gain some partners from Mexico or other countries? Would it benefit them in the long run? I'm going to say, I think Jeff Jarrett was obviously onto something with Global Force Wrestling and never got off the ground.
Ding, 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 ding.
But Impact did do the partnership with, Crash, with AAA, with Noah. They didn't move the needle even a little bit. And the problem was with Crash, all it was Laredo Kid and Garza. Noah was just Marufuji and Ishimori. There wasn't a real interchangeable talent exchange where we sing all these different people. And then with AAA, it was a little better with AAA, but the thing was, there was a moment where AAA was really hot in the United States, and I think Impact was a little behind the ball on that one. By the time they started really working with them and the Lucha Underground guys, that all kind of lost its steam a little bit. But they've tried to do this stuff, and it hasn't worked. Pentagon was a champion, a non-English speaking champion. It didn't effing work. But if you watch AEW, he still doesn't speak English. Hikaru Shida speaks horrible English, and she's a women's champion. There's a few people. They had another women's champion. I forgot her name, the little Japanese girl that she didn't really speak English.
Okay.
So they've been able to find ways to still make them work as champions. You know what I mean? Impact struggled with that. I don't think Ishimori spoke English. I could be wrong, but I want to say he didn't, or at least he didn't.
Was really good, and he stood out a lot.
What was that? I mean?
When Ishimori was on Impact, he stood out a lot.
Yeah.
He stood out really good, and he had good music.
You know what I mean? His music was
So there's ways to make the talent stand out. You just mentioned Ishimori, and Ishimori, he's a standout talent, man. Some of those people, some talent just stand out. We talked about Chris Bay earlier. Some talent, just when they're on the screen, when they're in a scene, they stand out. They're the ones you remember. But for the most part, this is the job of the television production, to present this character like they're a big deal. And when you're doing these partnerships, AEW and Impact are doing this right this time. You don't send your mid-card guy that nobody's ever heard of. Why would anybody care about that? Create a buzz. Send your champion. Bobby, when Impact or Global Force or whatever, when they were trying to do that stuff, it should have been Bobby Lashley, the champion, going to challenge some top popular babyface over in the Crash promotion, or in AAA, or Noah, or wherever, right? We're gonna send you our big gun, right? You know what I mean? So you need to come out and see that. Nobody cares that your fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth best star is coming here.
Right.
So you gotta, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right. Yes, this is a continuation of an idea Jeff Jarrett had 3-4 years ago, but they didn't do it right. They didn't execute it right. People aren't going to care that we're doing a cut in on a match from the Crash promotion just because it's in the Crash promotion. You got to do something to make us care. You got to send your big guns to do this and make it work. AEW is sending a big gun. It's a newsmaker, and that's a big reason why this is working. And I mentioned, I forgot to mention before, another NWA talent I love seeing Impact is Thunder Rosa. Bruh, yeah. She is the total package.
She's amazing. And the odd thing about her is that Impact, she on Twitter said she wanted to wrestle for Impact, and they didn't bring her in, which we don't know the behind the scenes shit. We don't.
Right.
But she clearly had the desire for it to happen.
She probably didn't want to work with Tessa. No, I'm just kidding.
No, she wanted. Yeah. And I was having a little combo with Kevin Matthews on Facebook yesterday, and I remember. So there's the new team in AEW. They're wrestling for the titles this coming. The Acclaim.
The Jackwagons. Oh no, that's what I was talking about. The guys who rap. That was the Acclaimed. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. So I didn't watch the episode yet, but I saw them looking like old school rappers. So, okay. But Anthony Bowens, I think is his name. KM was saying that he was begging Impact to bring him in. That he's real next level star type of dude. He said he was trying to get him to sign Chris Statlander too.
Right.
And dude, she's over as hell with AEW. So, the point I'm making is that they don't. As much as we want to say, okay, we want to see them bring all these new talents in and build new stars, like that's just not the way they do it. That's just not the way they operate. Like they don't bring guys from scratch. They just don't. Like, yeah, okay, I guess there's some here or there, but for the most part, they're like, okay, you had a little bit of buzz somewhere, we're going to bring you in, which is okay too, because you want some guys with a little buzz.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be a balance. Like we do want to get behind some brand new ass dudes and girls. But it just seems like that's just not really, especially with the women. They don't seem like they're like, okay, let's just give this talented girl a shot, or talented guy a shot and see what we can do with them. Like that's just not the way they sign people. So Thunder Rosa, like she's amazing, like amazing, and apparently she wasn't big enough on the radar to bring her in.
That's crazy.
So
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like I think you saw. Have you seen AEW? You said you haven't seen him this week.
No.
She appears on the show, and when you see it, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, shit. A couple of years ago, I was like, dude, I really want to see Britt Baker because Britt Baker always struck me as someone really, really TV ready, even though she hadn't been on a television show. And she clearly is. I mean, she's in a different league. With what she's doing, so
yeah, no, she's pretty good. But see, the thing that I think Jeff Jarrett was really good at is identifying talent, and I think that it's funny. I was actually watching some Gruden's QB camp earlier today, like some clips that are on YouTube, and I was watching him interview like Patrick Mahomes, and I was watching him interview like Dak Prescott, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like if you look at these interviews, you're seeing the like if you look back now, the stuff they talked about in those interviews has manifested itself into their NFL games. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why don't more teams, see this, right? Like, why don't they see that, hey, Patrick Mahomes is not perfect, but he makes one or two throws that make you say, oh my God, right? Like, why don't more NFL teams see that and say, yo, this guy is basically amazing. We should, do whatever we can to get him on our team, right? Like, same thing with like Dak Prescott, right? Like, why don't more NFL teams look at him and say, hey, if we put him in the right situation, he can be a baller. He's not necessarily the guy that's going to carry you when your team's bad, but if he's in the right situation, he can be a baller. And again, both of those guys lasted way longer in the NFL draft than they had any business, lasting. Yeah. So it's all about like just being able to evaluate the talent, right? The smart person saw Patrick Mahomes and said, yo, we can do something with this, right? And like, it's funny because, one of the things about him is people talk about how he never threw interceptions. And I'm like, yo, this is all like, right place, right time, right? Like, you put him in a different offense and who knows if he looks like that, right? Probably not, right? But it's about being able to evaluate the talent and evaluate what you do well and seeing how those things can mesh, okay? And that's one of the things that I think wrestling companies have to do a better job of.
Hell yeah. I think about that with the NBA too. There's certain teams that evaluate talent and say, hey, they can fit into our program, and then they're good, So yeah, it's a matter of talent evaluation, and that will wrap it up for us. That's all the stuff I saw listener wise, question wise on the YouTube in the comments. So thanks for checking us out. As always, I understand these podcasts can be a little long sometimes. Someone was asking me the other day, how come I don't break it up into several segments on YouTube? Like that's just not the way YouTube works. I wish I could get into that as someone who knows YouTube in and out pretty well, but that's just not the way YouTube works. So you either just have to check out the podcast on a streaming platform or hit pause here on YouTube and then come back later and finish it up. But I understand they're long uploads, but no, I will not be breaking them up ever. So,
and everybody who's listening, send this personally to 100,000 of your friends. And everybody who's listening to this, you each send this out to 100,000 of your closest personal friends, not just your acquaintances, but your really close personal friends. Just find your closest 100,000 of them and send them out this link, and have a group discussion about it. Let them know, tell us what you and all your friends think.
Simple. It's that easy.
That's it.
So, but for TW, I'm BQ. Thanks for swinging by. As always, we will talk to you guys next time. Peace.